So yeah, I remember I was talking about my favorite albums, and it's like my favorite rock albums or pop albums of all time. And when I say my favorite, I mean like stuff that I enjoy listening to. People feel like, oh well, this is very kind of artsy fartsy albums that you go to it's like those artsy fartsy movies. I remember I used to try to be into artsy fartsy movies like back in the '90s, and I used to be like, oh my god, I was about some guy that's like having some crisis in his head and some weirdness and just kind of boring. And I decided I just rather just watch a movie that I enjoy. I'd rather watch Monty Python, because I enjoy it. It's funny. I like. It's like. It's like the whole point of that is to be crazy. It's like silly humor, but I love it. That's why what I mean. Just if it's funny, enjoyable, but then also enjoy a good storyline. Just as long as it's interesting. So that's all we want in a good movie. Just for it to make sense, because it's like our minds. I mean, I know my mind is when I watch something that's not making sense. All I'm thinking is that doesn't make sense. Through the whole movie, and then I'll just be thinking about that and not being able to follow the film. Cause, oh my god, that doesn't make sense. So, yeah, that's like it. You want a movie that makes sense. That's what you want. It's like if you look at the best movies, it's just not really. A lot of them aren't really that interesting. They just make sense. Cohesive script. It's like okay, if that character was in that situation, they would probably be doing that. That makes sense. See, but like why would that character be doing that in that situation? Why would see that? So that's when. But yeah, you want that. But then it also helps. Then the better movies are the ones that make sense, the scripts that make sense. Plus, the plots that are more interesting. Plus the acting that are more convincing. And then the sets that look more convincing. But you don't necessarily have to have that. I mean, I love old Doctor Who, and old Doctor Who has like some of the worst special effects. I mean, because they didn't have a lot of money. It's BBC, but I still enjoyed it because the stories, because the scripts they were writing were really good. They had really good writers on there. Wrote really good scripts, but it didn't matter that the special effects were bad because I just wasn't really paying attention to that. Because I saw the special effects as it's just a representation of what's there, but it's not the real story. The story is what they're saying and then the acting. Because there was a lot of good writers for the BBC in the '60s and '70s, and all these guys, like Malcolm Hulke and Robert Holmes, and who else? No. And Malcolm Hulke, Robert Holmes, Doug, the guy who wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, him, Douglas Adams. Who else did they have to have writing stuff? Can't remember some of the other names, but they were like really good writers, and they wrote like a lot of other BBC stuff, like the Avengers and and all this other stuff. And then there's some really good scripts on those shows too, and Terry Nation is another good writer. He used to wrote on MacGyver the early seasons, and he created the Daleks, but he's a really good writer. So they had all these good writers on there. This is more than I'm mentioning now, but yeah, that's why they were so good. And like a lot of good actors too. A lot of good British actors played in Doctor Who. So that's why it was so good. Not because of the special effects. But you don't need special effects. Some of the worst films are the ones with good special effects.